Hello and welcome to another edition of Comics and Pop. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with Troy Cannon and Carlos Idarraga. And today we are going to discuss the Eternals. It's just Eternals, not the Eternals, but we're going to discuss the Eternals movie. And before we get to the post-credit scenes, which we'll discuss after, I want to start with the film. The Eternals was much maligned beforehand. Some of the worst reviews in Marvel movie history. On Rotten Tomatoes, it had a 48% score from critics, 80% score from regular audiences. So I went in thinking that it was going to be a train wreck. I anticipated hating it. I didn't. I didn't think it was as bad as the critics said, but nor did I think it was as high as the 80% audiences gave it. I think it was better than I went in expecting. Better than I went in expecting to hate it, since it was better than I thought it would be. However, if I went in expecting to love it, I would have been sorely disappointed. So to me, it was not as bad as Thor Dark World, not as bad as Iron Man 2 or The Incredible Hulk. I liked it better than Captain Marvel, but I wouldn't put it in my upper half of Marvel movies. There are a lot of things that I did like about it, a lot of things that I did not like. But before I get to mine, I'm going to take it off to you guys. Troy, let's start with you this week. Give me your thoughts before we get to. We'll do post-credit scenes after. The post-credit scenes we'll talk about later.
I have two thoughts about this movie. Like you said, I thought I had heard that it was going to be utter garbage. So I was thinking, oh man, this is gonna suck. This is gonna suck. I gotta watch it, but it's gonna suck. Oh. But I went there, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I was expecting it to be terrible, and it was just good. I think with Marvel movies, the problem that they're having is the main majority of their movies are so good that you expect all of them to be, Civil War, and Captain America, Winter Soldier. You expect all of them to be movies that Cap picks up Thor's hammer. You want to scream at the screen and yell and everything and drop your popcorn and point at your neighbor. You want them all to be that good. And this movie was just good. It was a good movie, but I didn't feel like screaming at the screen. I finished my popcorn. I didn't jump in the air and drop it. It was a good movie. It was an average good movie. It was not an average good Marvel movie. And I think that was the thing. One of the things I didn't like was they changed the dynamic of a lot of the characters.
They did, yeah.
And I didn't really dig that. I was expecting. Are we doing spoilerish stuff?
We can talk spoilers. Everyone's seen it by movie by now, so I think that who wants to watch this?
There are several Avengers that come from the Eternals, and one of them is Gilgamesh. And like we had talked before, I was like, he's got the strength of the Hulk. This is going to be great. He's possibly the strongest guy now. And he didn't have superhuman strength. He just had like power gloves that he was punching people with or whatever. He didn't lift anything. He didn't throw anything. I'm like, come on, man, you're changing him. I didn't like that. The second thing, I noticed that they gave 3 distinct nods to DC.
Yeah.
When
that was fun, I thought.
That was kind of cool. They talked Batman. They talked Superman. They called Icarus Superman. He was kind of Superman. And then every time that Thena freaked out, Gilgamesh would grab her and he would say, remember who you are. And all I could see was Wonder Woman throwing her magic lasso around Superman. It's like, Clark, Kal-El, remember who you are. And I'm like, that's a straight ripoff of that line from DC. So it's like 3 nods to DC. So they either are waving their fist at DC or nodding their hat. I'm not sure which.
I don't think it's the second one, but
that's what I took from it.
Carlos, let me hear your initial thoughts.
So my initial thoughts, I guess it's kind of like I went into but kind of like the same mindset, right? I actually kind of changed my mindset a little bit going into this movie. I tried to because most of the reviews that I've seen about it, have been, well, I've seen some positive ones. I guess the majority have been negative reviews, right? And obviously, it got killed in Rotten Tomatoes, but there's a million movies that got gotten killed in Rotten Tomatoes that I thought were fantastic. So I try not to like judge my movies by critics, more of like word of mouth and like people that I know that have seen the movie,
Like Boat Trip.
Huh? Like Boat
Boat-
Trip, exactly. Right, exactly. But I'm saying most of the movies that I see, I ask my friends who enjoy the kind of movies that I like, and if they've seen it, they'll say, "Oh, you got to see it," or "No, it's crap," or whatever. So I went in there kind of like with an open mind, and I kind of like had an open mind in the sense of maybe not going in there as a comic book guy, because the Eternals are very obscure. I mean, it's probably one of the most obscure comic out of all the Marvel comics. I personally, going into this movie, I honestly didn't know the names of every single cast, every single Eternal. I knew some of them, obviously the main ones, Icarus and Gilgamesh and Ajax and stuff. But I mean, like, the little kid, the little girl one, the other ones, the most of them were, I've read them maybe once 30 years ago, and then, I totally forgot about them. So I didn't really go in there with a big geeky Marvel mind as well. I went in there with an open mind, and going in there with an open mind, I really liked the movie. I thought it was really well made. I mean, the characters, they, like you said, they didn't keep real to the way the comics do, but Marvel does that. Marvel has they've always taken creative licensing in the MCU, and a lot of the stuff that they've done with the past characters we've hated. With Shang-Chi, they gave him the rings. Those rings, they're supposed to be rings you put on your hands. Totally different. But I enjoyed Shang-Chi as well. I enjoyed this movie actually a lot more than Shang-Chi, because I thought it was really well made. I mean, all the stuff that you guys that Troy was saying, I kind of enjoy, like the fact the little mentions of Batman and Superman and stuff. Kind of like it makes you think that are to them it to the MCU is DC. Are they comics like that they read? Is it like maybe like stories that they read that aren't real? Right? Or are they actual superheroes, right? That are, part of another world, is something that, maybe eventually they'll do a DC Marvel crossover or whatever, right? So they kind of open that up. It could either be that, or they could just be comic books that they read, just like we read comic books as a kid that aren't real. So I thought that was really cool. The characters, Icarus, he was kind of like, I guess he's kind of like a Superman character, right? With the, flying and shooting the beams out of his eyes, his relationship to the sun. I thought that was great. I mean, the Icarus, the Greek character and stuff, he built the wax wings and he flew too close to the sun and, died. So it kind of like, in a way, I like how they made it, how human history, their involvement in human history, pretty much everything that, technology, everything kind of like was linked to the Eternals, right? The Eternals kind of helped mold human history. So, I mean, we'll go into it a little deeper as far as like, break it down more. But as far as a whole, I really enjoyed the movie. Well, maybe I'm one of the ones, I'm one of the only ones, but I thought it was really, really
I can't
good.
say that you're the only one. I think we all enjoyed it. I think there are different levels of enjoyment. I mean,
right.
I gave it, to me, I'm giving it like a 7 out of 10. I'm getting, out of everything. But here's some of my things with it. We talked about this before. I hated the Eternals comic. The Eternals, when we were kids reading the Eternals comic,
right.
Like read a few pages, like I put it down because like it was always like boring to me. But I figured I'm giving Marvel the benefit of the doubt. But like the comic, there was a lot of convoluted stuff in it. Like following the plot in this was like wait, this happened, then that's happened the other. You're trying to keep track of everything, and even like a quarter of the way through the movie. The only names I knew were Cersei, Ajax, Icarus, and Sprite. They hardly mentioned the other names of the characters. At least they alluded to them, but they hardly mentioned them. So, like almost 3/4 of the way for the movie, I finally realized what the names are of all the characters. So because they're not really focused on their names so much. So that was one of the things. And two, and here's the thing, and I don't want to hear your political agenda in movies. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. And the thing that I'm talking about is the scenes. And I don't like what the things that you said you do like. I don't want to see the scenes throughout of them throughout history. That took me out of the movie. I thought it dragged the movie down. I don't want to hear what you thought of the conquistadors and the Aztecs. I'm half Mexican, and anytime I went to Mexico, I was always asking why the Aztecs couldn't defeat Cortez. They could have had they done something differently. And to us, it's like always you hear Cortez's name and you spit. But the Aztecs weren't saints. The Aztecs conquered other tribes. They enslaved other tribes. They sacrificed hundreds of thousands of them, and they made it like, oh, these Aztecs are like pure, and here come the conquistadors wiping them out. It's like history is a very tough thing to determine at the time. And also didn't want to see the thing with Hiroshima. I didn't want to see the thing like we're making the United States the bad guy here. This is a very delicate thing. We don't Hiroshima, like, for one, was it was a value thing that could have saved a lot of American lives. Should they have done by doing it? There were a lot of thousands of Americans would have been killed capturing. It's a delicate thing that you have to look at. I don't want to see, oh, this is bad, and we're giving you our opinion on this, and this was a bad thing to have happened. Of course, it was a bad thing to happen, but did it need to happen in history? So I don't want to see the political agenda pushing through in my movies. And here's more things like, I'm not sure why Angelina Jolie did the movie.
Just to say something on a political agenda thing, like I respect that, and I'm not really big into politics. You know me, you've known me forever. I really stay away from politics. But I think like all those points that you were making, I think kind of like made they were important to the story in the sense that usually in the MCU and in the Marvel universe, right? You have all these other universes, all these other people from elsewhere, always trying to destroy Earth, right? But there's always people trying to protect it and trying to protect humans and trying to protect humanity. So the Eternals, like their purpose was to come here to grow the planet and have as many, humans, so that this celestial that was in the middle of the Earth can feed off of humanity and can become strong enough, and he can become a celestial, so you can create more universes, right? So they've been doing this for millions of years. They've been destroying, hundreds of past, thousands of past Earths, right? But what changed their mind, they were like, what changed their mind about this particular, why they don't want to do this, what stopped this, was because of humanity, because they were here for so long and they became in love with humans, and they wanted, it's always been about like humanity, like even all the bad things that happen in history or don't happen or whatever, it's always about the humanity of Earth. So that's why Earth is always saved, right? And the whole narrative of the MCU has always been to save Earth and save humans. That's why like, you have heroes to save humans and to save humanity, because even though, horrible things have happened, whether it be Hiroshima, or whether it be, what do you call it? The Holocaust, whatever bad things may happen, heroes are here to say that, that even though these bad things happen, that humanity always rises above and always overcomes. So that's why this planet is
I could see all that, but this was presented in a very good and bad. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys. History is a lot more complex than that. And I said,
right.
It just took me right out of the movie. I respect
your view. I respect your view, but I looked at it as this is, the Eternals, their job was to destroy Earth, so that a new what do you call it? A new celestial will be born. But because they fell in love with humans and humanity, they went against, their billions of years of, what they were made for. These guys, they're like robots, basically. They're not really humans. So, and they went against it because, because of humanity. So
we fell in love with humans, but we're still not going to do anything when Thanos is snapping his finger.
Right, exactly. So I mean, I get the inconsistencies, but that's the way that
Troy wants to make a point. I just want to finish my thoughts here. Like, why is Angelina Jolie in the movie? I mean, she barely did anything. She was just standing there for the most part. She had a couple of scenes, and I'm still trying to figure out how she killed the deviant with her hands tied at the end. But for the most part, you have this big celebrity. Her and Selma Hayek were probably the two biggest people in this movie, I would say, right? And they did the least in this movie to me. The best thing about this, to me, the thing I love most was Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo, which also I didn't find out his name till last. The scenes with him and his valet made the movie for me. They were funny, and I kept looking forward to them. But even at the end, where's he going? He left. He left and just let them all fight without him. So I think, and at the end, we talked about this during Shang-Chi. They build up in Shang-Chi. They built up the father the whole time as this huge villain. But that's not who we're fighting at the end. Here, we're building up the Celestial the whole time, and I know and it felt like kind of a letdown. I didn't like that they made Icarus the villain, but besides that, we're also building up this super deviant, and he's killed like nothing at the end. He's really he's just like swatted away at the end. The main battle at the end is between them and Icarus, and it's tough to have that get that satisfying ending if we're not at least going to defeat the Celestial or defeat the super deviant. So yeah, that was tough for me. So to get all that. Troy, go ahead. You want to make a point there? So
their purpose on Earth, they're like chicken farmers. They come to Earth, they're planting seeds, they're growing chickens. Do we have enough chickens to take to market? Not yet. Give it another 1,000 years. You're planting seeds, you're getting the chickens to mate. Got enough chickens yet? Almost. That's what it seemed like to me when I was watching it. I was like, so they're like, that's all I was like, they're chicken farmers. They're just making a bunch of chickens or cow farmers or whatever. They're just making more cattle so that there's enough on the planet. Thanos really saved us back then when he snapped his finger. Because if he wouldn't have done that, we were ripe for the picking.
So thank you, Thanos.
Thanks, Thanos. Another thing I think about, this story that they did seemed familiar to me. And hearing you guys talk is rattling in my head. I know why this story is familiar, and I know you guys will think it's familiar too because we're all comic book guys. This is Galactus Cometh, the giant, powerful, celestial, superpowered space god comes to Earth, sends his herald or the Eternals to Earth to destroy the Earth, but they fall in love with it instead. And they say, oh, it's a really nice place. We've done this for thousands or millions of years. But all of a sudden, because we like the trees and the plants, and this person said hello to me this morning, that's never happened in a million years. So we're going to save this planet. I'm thinking, why would you do that? What happened to this world? The Silver Surfer, at least he had a reason, right? When the Silver Surfer decided not to destroy Earth, it's because Sue Richards kind of reminded him of Shambhala or whatever her name is, his ex. He's like, wow, you remind me of my ex. And he got his humanity back. He decided not to do it. Here, they just kind of said, they wanted to use us. We'll fix them. They've been our boss for 1,000,000 years, but we'll show you guys, even though you dwarf us in power by like 1 billion, we're going to steal and siphon your power and use it against you. I never understood that. That's like another movie trope where the weaker person gets the powerful person, just a small piece of the powerful person's power, and then they can defeat them. Like when, and I know I'm rambling, but when like you watch a martial arts movie and the great grandmaster has wiped out a village, but he missed that one person, and then they have the fighting montage where they learn out in the woods how to fight, and then they come back, and in a week, they're better than the grandmaster who's been killing people for 30 years or whatever. That's what happened here. These guys didn't have the power of Temet or the big one. I forget him with the 6 eyes, the main guy. Yeah. They didn't have their power, but they said we're gonna beat him. They couldn't beat. They couldn't beat their boss. They couldn't beat the one guy. Now Icarus. They couldn't beat Icarus. How was it that they couldn't beat Icarus? But after not being able to completely defeat him, they did turn their power on a Celestial and beat it. And it makes sense to me. I mean, I liked the movie. It was interesting. It was lights, right. Colors, it was things flashing back and forth. I would debate that Makari is faster than the Flash, the way she was zooming around, or at least
Makari.
Moving Flash, Makari. Yes. But I mean, things blew up. As a person just sitting there, I'm like, yay. As a comic book guy, I was broken.
Well, they didn't defeat the Celestial, the main Celestial. They went against his wishes and they stopped the new Celestial from being born, right? Mm-hmm. So technically, I mean, the main Celestial is kind of like God, basically. So he's like, So he, like, in the end, like, he appears and he says, all right, I'm going to let you guys have this one, I'm going to let you guys, and, let you guys keep your memories to make sure to see if you made the right decision or not with this planet, right? Which is like, basically what the whole, like I said, the whole Marvel universe is always based on, the right and wrong and, always save Earth because you always, there's always humans that are rise above other humans and do the right thing. So, Earth is always worth saving, right? So that's where that whole thing comes in. One of my favorite scenes of the whole movie, I'm a big Game of Thrones guy. So when the two kings of the North met, when you had Jon Snow and Icarus meet, that was like, that was awesome to me, because I'm a big, and I guess we can mention now the two post-credit scenes.
That's when I went to streaming. That's what actually there were people who streamed during the post-credit scene in the theater.
Post-credit scenes were awesome because obviously the first one we get to see Eros, which is Star Fox, which is Thanos' brother, right? And obviously played by what's his name?
Harry Styles.
Harry Styles, who I actually enjoy. I enjoy his music.
I went to see him in concert with my daughter.
Yeah, he's a talented kid. So I'll give him that. And so that was really cool. And the fact that he showed up with the elf. What's the elf's name? Pip the elf.
Right.
Voiced by
the elf. I gotta say the elf was the worst CGI I've seen in any Marvel movie.
But the guy who bought him, Tim Norton, is fantastic. I love that guy. The guy who's
Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt. I'm sorry, he's awesome. I love Patton Oswalt. Who's actually what's his name? He just did the animated series.
Right,
MODOK, right. So he's awesome. So I mean that was great bringing that. I mean, Eros obviously is Thanos' brother, so that automatically is going to ties into the MCU. And then the second one, right, when you see my man who's going to become obviously the Black Knight, when you heard the voice, right? If I would have went in to see the movie, I wouldn't have known who that was. And I knew who it was. I know who it is now because I've read stuff about it, right? But I mean, I didn't recognize the actor's voice. People obviously recognize the actor's voice.
We don't even know for sure. That's just speculation.
It's speculation that it's right, that it's Blade, that the voice that they heard was his name playing Blade. But I mean, like I said, I enjoyed. There isn't any. Honestly, the only thing that I didn't like was probably what you loved the most was the whole Bollywood Indian character guy. I thought that was kind of corny. That was probably the only thing that I didn't enjoy. I liked his sidekick. His sidekick was funny.
The sidekick cracked me up.
Sidekick cracked me up. Yeah. But him, like his character, I don't know. It was kind of. I didn't enjoy it that much. So But
I love the character every single time. Did you get that in film?
I like that. I really like the movie, man. I really don't have anything bad about it.
And when I saw that at the theater, right, I'm waiting. I'm sitting there. And I'm twiddling my thumbs because I know that there's the Easter eggs, and the guys that come in to sweep the floors and stuff.
Well, we knew Harry Styles was coming, right? We all knew that was happening.
Well, I didn't know what they were going to be. At that point, I didn't know. And the guy, I just knew something was supposed to happen. And one of the guys that the floor sweeper guys was standing there next to me, and he's kind of nodding his head. And people start walking out, so I'm looking at everybody, but the lights haven't come on yet.
I never understand people walk out during a Marvel movie at the credits.
You can't walk out. So the people are leaving, and I look at the guy, and I'm, hey man, is there an Easter egg at the end of this? And he said, I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I said that gave an open door for him to start talking to me. So I'm like, okay. And he's like, so you enjoy the movie? I'm like, I'm still watching it. And he's like, oh, okay. All right. And then the Mashara Ali voice comes, and he's like, oh, yeah. That's Samuel L. Jackson. And I'm like, I don't think so, man. And he's like, yeah. It's a black guy. It's got to be Samuel L. Jackson.
Must be.
I was like, no, I don't think so, man. And before I could tell him, because I wasn't sure, but it sounded like him. Before I could tell him who it was, who I thought it was, he said, you know what? It could be that scroll. And I'm like, what scroll? And he said, the one that's pretending to be Samuel L. Jackson. And I'm like, you're not going to let that go, huh? And I got up, I took my popcorn, I'm walking out, and he's behind me. He's like, so you like Samuel L. Jackson? And at this point, I know I'm getting hit on. He's hitting on me. He's following me. And I'm like, Yeah, that probably was Samuel L. Jackson, man. Hey, looks like there's another Easter egg. And I turned around and walked away. And he's like, hey, I work tomorrow. And I'm thinking, why do I care? What is that all about? I just had to
that bison muscle I see over there.
That's what happens with bison muscle. Yeah, it's everyone.
He noticed it. He noticed it.
Oh,
the aroma was in the air.
That's hilarious.
But when I read about the Harry Styles, I knew was coming because Harry Styles was trending, and I tried not to look at any of these takes. Harry Styles was trending on Twitter. He does a lot anyway. So I clicked on it, and it showed all these Eternals things. So I was like, oh, so I was like spoiled. But I didn't see the other one. I didn't read about the other one. But did you recognize the voice? I didn't recognize the voice. I didn't
recognize the voice.
I recognize only because of what's the other movie he did? Luke Cage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw Luke Cage, I love that. I thought he was the best. He was
awesome, Cage.
Yeah, he was incredible. And when I heard the voice, I could just see Cottonmouth. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that's Cottonmouth. That's Cottonmouth. That's Cottonmouth.
Maybe it is Cottonmouth and not Blade.
I didn't recognize the voice at all.
I'm really looking forward to Blade. I don't know, and Troy, you probably know this better than me. Then I mean, where does Blade come into with the Dark Knight? Then so.
I'm not sure. I think
that they're going to start introducing a lot of the dark aspect of Marvel, like the Marvel monsters and stuff, like going through Blade and going through that.
Yeah, they said that, but where does these two come together? That's what I want to know. I don't recall them Blade being with the Dark Knight. I probably missed that whole segment of comics if they were.
It could be that they're doing a Midnight Suns, and Blade could have some, supernatural threat that he needs defeated. And he could have come there looking for the uncle, because remember in the beginning of the movie, the uncle was alive. So Blade could have come there looking for the uncle and found the nephew because he needed somebody to wield the blade. This is all speculation. This is just banging around in my head, because they could be doing a Midnight Suns type thing, and Blade could be gathering some people.
Listen, Dracula is huge in the MC, in the Marvel comics. You know what I mean? Dracula is like a major character in the Marvel comics, so they could be going that route too. They're going to introduce him down the road, so you're bringing Blade in and stuff, And Dracula's involved. Dracula's recently in the Marvel comics. Dracula's involved with the what do you call it? The Russian bad guys, the Winter Guard, and them, and so. It's all gonna tie in, man.
Who's the other vampire in Marvel? The
Morbius.
Not more. It wasn't more. No, I don't think it is more. I know more. It's some. Was it Morbius?
A long time ago, they had Baron Blood that used to fight the invaders. He was a Captain America villain, and his
maybe it is more. I'm talking about the 70s. Maybe it's Morbius.
Yeah,
it's 70s.
They might bring Brother Voodoo in. I think they're going the Man Thing. So there's a lot of.
I love the Man Thing. I did love the Man Thing.
I heard they're bringing in Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night, exactly. This is that whole Marvel horror monster. That's huge, man.
My dog's chiming in, of course.
All right. Well, on that note,
he heard that Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
He's a fan.
There's nothing I do right on that though. But anyway, there. So we did. So overall, I do say that people should go see the Eternals. I definitely, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it a lot, and I'm hoping he stops this. I don't know. There's one more thing that bothered me though. Sprite stabs someone. And she's okay. She stabs Cersei. I mean, okay, no problem.
But at the end, they made her human, so that was her price.
Her price to pay for it.
Yeah,
they're a million years
old.
They're a million years old, so they probably bumped heads a lot of times. Those who didn't even know that the speedster and Druid were dating.
Yeah,
and they had been dating for a while, and nobody even knew. And they're like kissing on each other and hugging each other. And they're like, when did this start?
Yeah.
They're millions of years old. So they probably stab each other, every couple hundred years. Somebody gets stabbed or, he hit me in the head with a brick. You remember that time you put a vampire in my bed? That wasn't cool. They probably
So
do
I
stuff
think-
like that, yeah.
I also think that the Eternals, you know, they're gonna tie in, you know, since you know Marvel, what is it? I can't. Oh my God, the Guardians of the universe,
Galaxy?
of the galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy. they're huge in the MCU. So you know, I think tying them, the Eternals, you know, the Eternals tying them, Star Fox and Heroes. It's all gonna come together, you know. So I think that's.
Well, I don't think Icarus is
I
dead.
love the way.
So
Huh?
I don't think
Icarus
Icarus is dead.
No, the sun. I don't think the sun can kill him.
Yeah, but like I said, when the post credits came on, there was definitely a shriek when Harry Styles came. That might have been me, but there was definitely a shriek when Harry Styles came out.
I didn't know who that was.
Really?
I didn't know who it was, and my kid was like, "Watermelon Sugar High," and I'm like,
Watermelon
What?
sugar.
What is that? I thought he was talking about something about a street drug. I'm like, what?
He's a good actor, by the way. He's been in like some
High.
real good films. He's been like, you know, he was like in
No, I
right?
like the kid. Talented. He's just not the kid. He's this generation's Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, something
Okay,
for you.
all right.
That's Carlos's boy, Justin.
Oh, I love Justin Timberlake. That's my guy.
All right, but anyway, so we all think that this movie should be seen. We all agreed it's not as bad as what the critics made it out to be. So, like I said, I gave it a 7. I don't know what do you guys give it?
I give it an 8. I give it an 8.
An 8?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I
an
think
8?
Yeah.
I feel
A
bad.
solid 8. A solid 8.
I definitely think 7. I don't think you got more than a 7 for me. I did like a lot of the things, but like I said, there were things that I thought, but anyway, we do recommend you go see the Eternals. In the comments, let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you liked it, didn't like it, and what you want to see next. And as always, thank you for watching. This has been Comics and Pop, and please subscribe.
Right.
Subscribe.